Twins of Reddit, what's your embarrassing story involving your twin's partner? My husband has an identical twin. When my husband and I got engagement photos done, Facebook automatically tagged my husband's brother in a bunch of our photos, and I posted them without realizing. I went to a funeral of a friend's father. I had no idea that the deceased had an identical twin. It felt really strange to see the guy in the coffin sat at the front row of the church. Was going down an escalator at a casino, look across and see my brother, get the excites and yell hey bro, start waving for his attention, was waving to myself in a mirror. My girlfriend told me about a production of Twelfth Night that was able cast identical twins for the main role. At one point one of them walked off one side of the stage and the other walked on from the opposite side in a different costume seconds later. Most of the audience just thought they were doing really fast quick changes. In the version they used for the DVD, a guy in the audience near the camera very loudly said what the f when this happened. I'm not a twin, but dated one of two twin brothers in high school. The other twin also had a girlfriend at the school. One day, someone in my class pulls me aside to nervously tell me he thinks my boyfriend is cheating on me. He was fairly new at the school and didn't know yet there were twins. It gave us all a good laugh when the story got around, and the guy was pretty relieved to hear there was no cheating going on. Okay, but shout out to that guy for seeing what he thought was a bad situation and taking immediate action on it. My identical twin brother, my wife, and myself all went to school together and got jobs at the same place after passing boards. Since there are some rules regarding family working together, I was not hired to the same unit as my wife, but my twin was. It was a lot of fun, taking lunches together, etc. But there was one social worker who just couldn't grasp that my brother and wife were not the married ones. She'd compliment me on how cute they were together, comment on social media how great a couple they were, even talk about how much my kids take after their dad, referring to him. It's all benign and we laugh about it, but she really laid it on thick. My twin brother died in a car wreck and my family suggested that I should date his girlfriend because grief, I guess. Real fucking awkward, mom. I got pranked by my girlfriend, an identical twin, a few months ago. There is no point where a guy is more vulnerable than immediately after orgasm. Everything is just drained. Knowing this, my girlfriend awaited this moment one morning. Immediately after I finished, she looked up at me, took a deep sigh, and said don't tell her name while mimicking her sister's mannerisms. I freaked the f out, pulled my receding member out, and flipped out of the bed in what I can only describe as an emotional clusterfuck. It was only as I came to my senses that I noticed my girlfriend giggling helplessly. It was then that I knew that I am dating the evil twin. My dad and uncle are twins. 2/3 times a year they'll show up to dinner or they'll be at each other's houses wearing the exact same outfit, only different brands. At first it was funny, but now we know it just happens. People mix them up all the time. Multiple times a month they're telling people they're not the other, haha. Acquaintances and work associates have thought they're having an affair. My dad was confronted once and had to explain to the guy who was a couple drinks in apparently that he's not his brother. An actual story from when they were kids. They're almost 3 years and share a room with 2 wooden frame twin beds. That Christmas they got a plastic tool chest toy set thing. My grandma says it wasn't more than 3 weeks after Christmas when she goes into their room and the beds are completely taken apart. The head and footboard bolts were removed, the slats were removed and separated. They had no idea how it happened. My grandpa called up the company handyman who put it back together. Couple days later, same exact thing, only my grandparents are pissed now. They got rid of the wood bed frames and got 2 metal cots with the springs, which lasted about a week. My grandma walks into their room and found one of the beds completely taken apart, each spring removed. The twins, though they were working together on the second cot. One of them was grabbing the fabric and pulling it to ease the tension, and the other was using the back of the plastic hammer to pry out the spring. They ended up losing tool chest privileges. I tried to date this girl from class and we were going out on dates and everything, but out of nowhere she stopped talking to me because her friends saw me with another girl, my twin sister, at the movies and thought I was playing her, but they didn't know I have a twin sister. My ex was once scrolling through FB and said, "You look really hot in this photo." It wasn't me. This is actually my friend's story. She went to see a play at a university with her identical twin. His sister said that there was a shortcut to the theater by cutting through some class building. My friend didn't think that made sense, but her sister seemed confident about it, so she followed along. Then suddenly her sister opens a classroom door and says, "Let's go in here." My friend goes inside, and freaks out when she sees a bunch of paintings of what looks like herself, completely naked. It turns out her sister had posed nude for an art class, and thought that would be a fun surprise. My sisters are twins. Their favorite story is when one of their boyfriends tries to show the wrong twin this weird-ass mole on his butt cheek. Both sisters are extremely squeamish, so boyfriend thought it was just her being grossed out. Unfortunately, my dad walked in on him chasing the wrong twin around the kitchen with half of his butt hanging out. My dad just turned around and walked out. That boyfriend also had a thing for eating raw vegetables like onions, garlic, and potatoes. I've told this story before, but it's even more fitting here. My identical twin sister was dating the president of a fraternity on campus, and during one of the frat's date night events she went with her boyfriend and I was set up as a date for one of his brothers. Towards the end of the night I got separated from my date, and my sister's extremely drunk boyfriend put his arm around me while sis was in the bathroom. Boyfriend leaned in to kiss me. Venue was super dark, so I think it was an honest mistake, so I backed up to set the record straight. He asked if I was down for a threesome with my own twin sister. I still feel bad for ditching my date, but shudders I had to get out of there ASAP. Dad's friend is a twin, lives in Chicago. His twin brother lives in Boston. On the same day, both twins fell off a ladder and broke the same leg. There was a up story about the twins in my country. 2 baby girls were swapped in hospital, and one twin came back home with other family. Their daughter stayed with her twin sister. Girls were completely different, but the family thought they are just not identical twins. They found out the truth when all 3 girls were in high schools. The real twins were constantly called differently and strangers would approach them and say hi. They lived in a relatively small town, so finally some common friends organized their meeting. Although they look identical, they are completely different people. E.g., one of them likes metal music and wears black clothes. The story didn't end up well, although they sued the hospital. Both families are devastated by the whole story. Not embarrassing, but my twin sister is dating a guy that friend-zoned me. At least he isn't going just for the looks. I think that's probably why it would hurt more. I was with my twin brother at the supermarket this one time, and judging from this story I'm guessing that obviously we look the same from the back, but not exactly the front because I'm a female. My brother's girlfriend was shopping at the same store as us that day and comes up behind me and smacks my bottom saying "Hey love." Jokingly I turn around and say it back. The look on her face made me regret what I did. Mr. Clark. I grew up in a small town where if you were walking down the road and your neighbors were outside, you smiled and waved. For years, I would take walks as a kid, smiled and waved all the time to a dear old gentleman, Mr. Clark. I was sad when I learned he passed away. He was well liked in the community. A couple of weeks after he passed, I went for a walk. As I approached his house, I saw a familiar face. It was Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark was dead. A chill went through me. I felt frozen but yet able to walk. I felt sheer terror. In that second, it was confirmed. Ghosts are real, but no one would believe me, so I kept it to myself. For a couple of weeks, I saw Mr. Clark in his yard a couple of times and I hurried on by his house as fast as I could. That feeling of sheer terror always at the surface. Mr. Ghost Clark was a little off. He didn't smile, he didn't wave. I couldn't take it anymore, so I mentioned Mr. Clark to my bestie's mom, who lived 3 houses down from Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark was a twin. The happy twin passed and the curmudgeon Clark was still alive and kicking. I will never forget the feeling of nearly losing my bowels the first time I saw Ghost Clark after he passed. I will also never forget the laughter my friend's mom couldn't hold back when I told her my ghost story. My twin brother is gay, so early in high school, before people knew he had a twin, I was groped by a gay man. Only tangentially related to topic, but I feel like sharing. On my last day as manager of a restaurant, a new girl was hired. I continued to drink there, and she and I got to know each other a little. Mostly just drink and smoke. Gave her a ride here and there, texted and such. Went on for a year. Then I started seeing her fairly frequently at a new place. She'd always hug me and seemed genuinely happy to see me. It was nice. I could feel real affection in her hugs. One day I saw her, and everything seemed like usual, but I didn't feel anything when we hugged. I was confused, but I figured maybe it was my imagination since I hadn't done anything wrong. To be honest, it really bothered me. I thought about it all week. Then the next week I saw her with her identical twin. I was surprised and very relieved. Turns out it happens all the time, and her sister plays along as if she knows me because it's faster than explaining. This story is so prime and I'm so excited to tell it. I used to do musicals. Like singing dancing musicals. My brother came to a performance and was at the greeting line afterwards. He goes up to the lead actress in the show as says, "Great job. Congrats. What a show," to which she responds, "Oh, I wasn't in the show, actually it was my twin sister. But you were fantastic," to which my twin brother says, "I wasn't in the show either." And that's when the actual lead actress and I walk up wondering why they both look so damn confused. I've been laughing about it for years. My mom is an identical twin. She and her sister were always dressed alike and hated it, so one year for Halloween my grandpa took my mom costume shopping and my grandma took my aunt. When they got home they were so excited to show each other their costumes. But when they came out of their room they were wearing the same thing. My grandma and her sister were twins. Her sister was going to be a nun so couldn't be involved in any affairs. Some guy asked the sister out, who sent my grandma in her place. Tasked with ending the date poorly. I'd like to say there's a funny ending that the guy is my granddad, but he's not. He's just some random dude. So your grandma's sister was a sister, who sent her sister out with a mister who never kissed her. I'm not a twin, but my mum and aunt are identical twins. As they've gotten older I think they are more distinguishable, but from behind most people think they look exactly the same. My aunt and uncle were round for dinner and my aunt was in the kitchen preparing some food when my stepdad came in, hugged my aunt from behind and kissed her neck. Everyone thought it was hilarious, but my stepdad was very apologetic and embarrassed for a long time.